In the sprawling annals of medieval Europe, where tales of knights, castles, and epic battles reign supreme, there emerges a figure whose influence and charisma transcended the boundaries set for women of her time. Eleanor of Aquitaine wasn't just any queen, she was a force of nature, a woman who ruled vast territories, navigated the treacherous waters of court politics, and left an indelible mark on history. From the courts of France to the rolling hills of England, Eleanor's story is one of power, passion, and a relentless spirit that defied an era. The exact year of Eleanor's birth remains a mystery. While some records hint at her being 13, in the spring of 1137, suggesting a birth year of 1124, others point to events in 1136 when she might have turned 14. This, combined with her age of 82 at her passing, makes 1122 a probable birth year. It's believed she was born in either Poitiers, Bordeaux, or Nul-sur-Lottes. Tragically, Eleanor lost her mother and brother at a young age, either when she was 6 or 8. Born as Eleanor, she was the eldest of 3 children to William X, the Duke of Aquitaine, who presided over one of the most illustrious courts of early 12th century Europe. Her mother, Anne de Châtellerault, was the offspring of Amaury I, Viscount of Châtellerault, and Dangereus de Lisle Bouchard, a mistress to William IX and Eleanor's maternal grandmother. The name Eleanor, derived from Latin, signifies the other inner, evolving into Eleanor in northern French dialects and Eleanor in English. Interestingly, there was an Eleanor before her, Eleanor of Normandy, an aunt to William the Conqueror. In her time as the Queen of France in Paris, she was addressed as Helianordis. Eleanor's education was nothing short of comprehensive. Her father ensured she was well versed in subjects like arithmetic, astronomy, and history. She also mastered domestic arts, including embroidery, sewing, and weaving. Beyond this, Eleanor was skilled in conversation, dancing, games like backgammon and chess, and even played the harp and sang. Fluent in her native Poitevin, she was also educated in Latin, music, literature, and outdoor pursuits like riding and hunting. Described as outgoing, bright, and assertive, Eleanor faced tragedy early on when her younger brother William Aigret and their mother passed away in 1130. This event marked Eleanor as the heir to her father's vast territories. The Duchy of Aquitaine was France's crown jewel, with Poitou and Aquitaine combined nearly equating to a third of modern-day France. Eleanor had a younger sister, Aelith, and a half-brother, Jocelyn, whom William X acknowledged but didn't consider as his heir. Another supposed half-brother, William, has been debunked. In the subsequent years, her siblings would become part of Eleanor's royal entourage. In 1137, Duke William X journeyed to Bordeaux, bringing his daughters, including Eleanor, with him. Once there, he entrusted them to the care of Bordeaux's archbishop, a trusted vassal. The Duke then embarked on a pilgrimage to the revered shrine of St. James of Compostela. Tragically, on Good Friday that year, April 9th, he passed away. Suddenly, Eleanor, a young girl between 12 and 15, found herself as the Duchess of Aquitaine, making her Europe's most sought-after heiress. Given the era's occasional practice of abducting heiresses to claim titles, Duke William, foreseeing potential threats, drafted a will on his deathbed. He bequeathed his vast domains to Eleanor and designated King Louis VI of France as her protector. The Duke's wish was for the king to safeguard both Eleanor and her lands and to find her an appropriate spouse. But until such a match was made, the king held rights over Eleanor's territories. William's final instructions to his companions were to keep his demise a secret until the king was informed. They were to hasten from the shrine, across the Pyrenees, to Bordeaux to alert the archbishop, and then rush to Paris to relay the news to the king. At this time, King Louis VI, often referred to as Louis the Fat, was critically ill, battling a severe case of dysentery. His health was deteriorating, but his mental faculties remained sharp. His eldest surviving son, also named Louis, was initially destined for a life in the monastery. However, fate had other plans, and he became the next in line for the throne after his elder brother, Philip, tragically died in a riding mishap in 1131. With Duke William's death, the coveted Duchy of Aquitaine was up for grabs. While King Louis VI outwardly expressed sympathy to the Aquitanian envoys, internally he was elated. Instead of merely overseeing the duchy and its young duchess, he hatched a plan to merge Aquitaine with the French crown. This union would significantly amplify the might and stature of France and its ruling dynasty, the Capets. Swiftly, the king orchestrated a marriage between his 17-year-old son, Louis, and Eleanor. Abbot Suger was tasked with the wedding preparations. To ensure the union, young Louis, accompanied by a formidable escort of 500 knights, Abbot Suger, Theobald II, Count of Champagne, and Rolli, Count of Vermandois, was dispatched to Bordeaux. On July 25, 1137, Eleanor and Louis exchanged vows in the Cathedral of Saint-André in Bordeaux, officiated by the city's archbishop. Following their nuptials, they were promptly inaugurated as the Duke and Duchess of Aquitaine. The agreement was clear: Aquitaine would retain its autonomy from France until Eleanor's eldest son ascended as both the French king and the Duke of Aquitaine. This ensured that Eleanor's territories wouldn't be absorbed into France immediately but would wait for the next generation. As a token of her affection, Eleanor gifted Louis a rock crystal vase, which now graces the Louvre. This vase, later bequeathed by Louis to the Basilica of Saint Denis, stands as the sole artifact linked to Eleanor that has withstood the test of time. However, Louis's reign as the Count of Poitou and Duke of Aquitaine and Gascony was short-lived. Though he was formally instated on August 8, 1137, he soon received word that Louis VI had succumbed to dysentery on August 1. Consequently, as the year drew to a close, on Christmas Day, Eleanor and Louis were anointed and crowned as the King and Queen of France. Eleanor, with her vivacious spirit, found it challenging to win the hearts of the more conservative northerners. Louis's mother, Adelaide of Maurienne, viewed her as frivolous and potentially detrimental. Eleanor's reputation wasn't helped by the lingering tales of Constance of Orleans, Robert II's Provençal wife, whose unconventional attire and speech were still recounted with disdain. Church leaders, notably Bernard of Clairvaux and Abbot Suger, found Eleanor's demeanor unbecoming. Yet, Louis was deeply smitten by his sophisticated and radiant queen. He indulged her every desire, even if her actions often left him perplexed. Significant funds were allocated to refurbish the Stark Site Palace in Paris to cater to Eleanor's refined tastes. Louis found himself in a fierce disagreement with Pope Innocent II when, in 1141, the Archbishopric of Bourges became vacant. Louis nominated one of his chancellors, Cadurc, while rejecting the Pope's favored candidate, Pierre de la Châtre. When Pierre was elected by the canons of Bourges and consecrated by the Pope, Louis retaliated by barring him from entering Bourges. The Pope, recalling past conflicts with Eleanor's family in Poitou, pointed fingers at Eleanor, suggesting that young Louis was being influenced by her. In response, Louis vowed that Pierre would never set foot in Bourges during his reign. This led to a religious sanction on Louis's territories, and Pierre found refuge with Theobald II, Count of Champagne. The situation intensified when Louis allowed Rolli, Count of Vermandois and the Seneschal of France, to annul his marriage to Eleanor of Champagne, Theobald's sister, and wed Eleanor's sister, Petronilla of Aquitaine. Eleanor championed her sister's new union. Theobald, already at odds with Louis over the Bourges dispute, was further incensed. This ignited a 2-year war, culminating in Louis's forces occupying Champagne. A particularly harrowing incident occurred in Vitry, where over 1,000 people seeking sanctuary in a church perished in a fire. Distraught and seeking an end to the conflict, Louis tried to negotiate peace with Theobald. The terms were briefly met, only to be broken again, leading to further devastation in Champagne. In 1144, during a visit to the newly constructed church at Saint Denis, Eleanor sought the intervention of Bernard of Clairvaux with the Pope to lift the excommunication on Petronilla and Raoul. Bernard rebuked Eleanor for her state interference and perceived lack of remorse. Eleanor, in a rare moment of vulnerability, expressed her sorrow over not having children. Moved, Bernard promised to pray for her if she worked towards peace. Soon after, peace was restored, Theobald regained his territories, and Pierre de la Châtre was recognized as the Archbishop of Bourges. By April 1145, Eleanor welcomed a daughter, Marie. Yet, the shadows of victory haunted Louis. Seeking atonement, he contemplated a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. His aspirations aligned with Pope Eugene III's call in the autumn of 1145 for a crusade to aid the Frankish states in the Middle East. Thus, on Christmas Day 1145, Louis announced his intent to embark on a crusade from Bourges. Eleanor of Aquitaine, with a fervor matching her husband's, took up the cross of the Second Crusade, inspired by a sermon from Bernard of Clairvaux. She was also influenced by letters from her uncle, Raymond, Prince of Antioch, who sought more protection against the Saracens. Eleanor didn't just want to be a silent participant, she rallied her royal ladies-in-waiting and 300 non-noble vassals from Aquitaine. Asserting her feudal rights, she insisted on leading her troops. Their journey began in June 1147 from the Five Thiesley, believed to be the resting place of Mary Magdalene. However, the crusade was fraught with challenges. Louis, though a king, lacked the military acumen necessary for such an expedition. Their journey through Eastern Europe was further complicated by the Byzantine emperor, Manuel I Comnenus, who feared the crusade might threaten his empire. Yet, in Constantinople, the royal couple was celebrated. The Greek historian, Nicetas Choniates, even likened Eleanor to the mythical Amazonian queen, Penthesilea. But as they ventured into Asia Minor, the challenges mounted. Misinformation, poor decisions, and ambushes plagued their journey. One of the most harrowing episodes was their discovery of the unburied remains of the German army in the Phrygian mountains. Another was the Battle of Mount Cadmus, where the Crusaders were ambushed due to a lack of coordination and discipline. The aftermath was devastating, with many blaming Eleanor's vassal, Geoffrey de Rancon, for the debacle. As a result, Eleanor's reputation suffered, with many pointing fingers at her for the army's misfortunes. Rumors also swirled around Eleanor during their stay in Antioch. Whispers of an affair with her uncle Raymond were rampant, though some historians believe this might have been a smokescreen for political machinations. Raymond hoped Louis would target Aleppo, a strategic location, but Louis was set on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. Eleanor's attempt to assert herself and stay with Raymond was thwarted by Louis, who forcibly took her with him, a move that deeply humiliated the queen. The rest of the crusade saw Eleanor maintaining a subdued presence. Louis's subsequent military endeavors, like the siege of Damascus, proved fruitless. The royal couple, with their diminished forces, had no choice but to retreat. They journeyed to Jerusalem, then to Rome, and eventually back to Paris. Yet, Eleanor's time in the eastern Mediterranean wasn't without its merits. She became acquainted with emerging maritime conventions, precursors to modern admiralty law. She later introduced these in Oleron in 1160 and subsequently in England. Furthermore, Eleanor played a pivotal role in forging trade agreements with Constantinople and other key ports in the Holy Lands. The rift between Eleanor and Louis had been widening even before their crusade, and their time abroad only deepened the chasm. Rumors about Eleanor's closeness with her uncle, Raymond of Antioch, stirred controversy. Eleanor, having shared a close bond with Raymond in their younger days, now displayed an affection towards him that many deemed inappropriate. She also backed Raymond's ambition to reclaim the nearby county of Edessa, aligning with the Crusade's primary objective. Their journey back to France was fraught with challenges. Traveling on separate ships, a testament to their strained relationship, they faced both Byzantine attackers and treacherous weather. Eleanor's ship was blown off course to the Barbary coast, and for over 2 months, both she and Louis were presumed dead. Eleanor eventually landed in Palermo, Sicily, where she was hosted by King Roger II. It was here she learned of her uncle Raymond's tragic demise at the hands of Muslim forces. Their journey took another detour when, instead of heading straight to France, they visited Pope Eugene III in Tusculum. Eleanor had hoped for an annulment, but the Pope had other plans. He reaffirmed the sanctity of their marriage and even orchestrated a symbolic gesture, having them share a bed. This union led to the conception of their second daughter, Alix of France. However, the writing was on the wall for their marriage. With no male heir and mounting pressures, including Eleanor's own desire for separation, Louis conceded. On March 11, 1152, they convened at the royal castle of Beaugency to formally end their union. The annulment was granted on March 21 by 4 archbishops, citing consanguinity as the reason. Despite being third cousins, their marriage was deemed too close in bloodline. Their daughters, Marie and Alix, were declared legitimate, ensuring no stain on their royal lineage. Louis retained custody, but assurances were made to restore Eleanor's lands to her. Eleanor's journey to Poitiers after her annulment was fraught with danger. 2 ambitious lords, Theobald V, Count of Blois, and Geoffrey, Count of Nantes, sought to abduct and wed her, aiming to seize her vast territories. However, Eleanor had other plans. She swiftly sent messages to Henry, Duke of Normandy, proposing marriage. In a whirlwind move, just 8 weeks post her annulment, on May 18, 1152, Eleanor and Henry wed, albeit without the expected grandeur befitting their status. Interestingly, Eleanor's relationship to Henry was even closer in blood than her previous marriage to Louis. They were third-degree cousins, sharing common ancestry. Rumors even whispered of a past liaison between Eleanor and Henry's father, Geoffrey V, Count of Anjou. Despite the whispers and familial ties, their union was solidified, and on October 25, 1154, Henry ascended the English throne. Eleanor, heavily pregnant, was crowned queen on December 19, 1154. Their union produced 8 children: William, Henry, Richard, Geoffrey, John, Matilda, Eleanor, and Joan. There were also murmurs of a son named Philip, but this claim remains unsubstantiated. Their marital life, however, was far from serene. While they had numerous children, Henry was known for his infidelities, fathering several illegitimate children. Eleanor seemed to have a somewhat pragmatic approach to these indiscretions. For instance, Geoffrey of York, one of Henry's illegitimate children, was openly acknowledged by the king and even raised under Eleanor's care. The political landscape during their reign was tumultuous. Aquitaine remained defiant, recognizing only Eleanor's authority. Efforts to annex Toulouse failed. A significant rift developed between Henry and Thomas Becket, his once trusted chancellor turned Archbishop of Canterbury. Louis of France, Eleanor's ex-husband, after multiple marriages, finally had a son, Philip Augustus. Eleanor's role in these events remained somewhat obscured, but by 1166, the strains in her marriage to Henry, exacerbated by his affair with Rosamond Clifford, were evident. In 1167, a significant shift occurred. Eleanor's daughter, Matilda, wed Henry the Lion of Saxony. After spending a year in England with Matilda, Eleanor decided to move her belongings to Argentan. That Christmas, the royal court convened there, and it became clear that Eleanor and Henry had agreed to a separation. Eleanor departed for Poitiers post the festivities. Henry, rather than objecting, escorted her safely to her destination. Once there, Eleanor effectively took control of her lands, showcasing her enduring political acumen and strength. Eleanor's influence on the cultural tapestry of her time was profound, and her tenure in Poitiers from 1168 to 1173 stands out as a particularly enigmatic chapter. While Henry II was preoccupied elsewhere, Eleanor carved out a unique space in Poitiers. Some historians posit that her court was the legendary court of love, a nexus where the arts of troubadours, the ideals of chivalry, and the ethos of courtly love converged. This court, if it existed, might have been Eleanor's attempt to cultivate manners and etiquette, setting a precedent for future French courts. Andreas Capellanus, in his work The Art of Courtly Love, alludes to this court. He paints a vivid picture where Eleanor, her daughter Marie, Ermengarde, Viscountess of Narbonne, and Isabel of Flanders presided over romantic disputes, acting as arbiters in matters of the heart. Among the many cases they purportedly deliberated upon, the most intriguing was whether true love could flourish within the confines of marriage. The verdict? It was deemed improbable. However, the very existence of this court of love is a subject of contention among scholars. Detractors argue that Capellanus' account is the sole evidence, and they question its veracity, especially given the absence of corroborative evidence that Marie was ever in Poitiers with Eleanor. Some, like Polly Schroyer Brooks, suggest that while the court might have existed, it was perhaps a light-hearted endeavor, a parlor game devised by Eleanor and Marie to instill decorum among the young courtiers. It's essential to clarify that Eleanor isn't credited with inventing the concept of courtly love. However, her Poitiers court might have been instrumental in amplifying the popularity of courtly love literature across Western Europe. Amy Kelly, in her article Eleanor of Aquitaine and Her Courts of Love, offers an insightful perspective. She suggests that in Eleanor's Poitevin code, men were beholden to women, a stark contrast to the prevailing norms in the neighboring realms. This inversion of roles, where man became subservient in matters of love, might have been Eleanor's subtle rebellion against the two kings she had distanced herself from. Eleanor's involvement in the Revolt of 1173-1174 is a testament to the complex dynamics of the Plantagenet family and the political intrigues of the time. The revolt was primarily a reaction against King Henry II's policies and distribution of territories among his sons. The younger Henry, also known as Henry the Young King, felt marginalized and sought greater autonomy and power. His discontent was shared by his brothers, Richard and Geoffrey, and they found an ally in their mother, Eleanor. Eleanor's role in the revolt is a matter of debate among historians. Some sources suggest that she actively supported her sons, while others hint at her passive approval. Given Eleanor's strained relationship with Henry II and her formidable political acumen, it's plausible that she played a more active role than what's overtly documented. Her arrest and subsequent imprisonment by King Henry II was a significant event. By detaining Eleanor, Henry II was not just punishing his estranged wife, but also sending a message to his rebellious sons and any nobles who supported them. Eleanor's arrest was kept discreet, perhaps to avoid further public scandal or to prevent her from becoming a rallying point for further rebellions. Eleanor's confinement after the revolt marked a long period of imprisonment for her. Although she was not kept in dire conditions and was moved between various locations, she was effectively sidelined from political power for many years. It wasn't until the death of Henry II in 1189 and the ascension of her son, Richard the Lionheart, to the throne that Eleanor was released and returned to a position of influence. Eleanor's long imprisonment was a testament to the political dynamics of the time and the personal animosities within the Plantagenet family. Even though she was not kept in harsh conditions, her confinement was a significant restriction on her freedom and political influence. The death of her son, Henry the Younger, was a significant blow to Eleanor. Not only did she lose a child, but she also lost a potential ally in her ongoing struggles against her husband, King Henry II. The young king's deathbed plea for his mother's freedom highlights the deep bond between mother and son, and the recognition of the injustice of her imprisonment. Eleanor's gradual return to the political scene after the death of her son was marked by her involvement in various diplomatic missions and her association with the governance of the realm. However, she was still under supervision, indicating that while she was given more freedom, she was not entirely trusted by her husband or his advisors. The complex relationship between Eleanor and Henry II is evident in their interactions. Even after all the betrayals, revolts, and Eleanor's imprisonment, the two still had to cooperate on certain matters of state. Eleanor's role in the governance of the realm, even if limited, shows her resilience and her ability to navigate the treacherous waters of medieval politics. The death of Rosamond Clifford, Henry II's mistress, and the subsequent rumors about Eleanor's involvement in her death further complicate the narrative of their relationship. While there is no concrete evidence to suggest Eleanor had a hand in Rosamond's death, the rumors persisted and added to Eleanor's already complex and multifaceted reputation. Throughout her life, Eleanor faced numerous challenges, both personal and political. Yet, she remained a formidable figure in European history, known for her intelligence, political acumen, and resilience in the face of adversity. When King Henry II passed away on July 6, 1189, Richard I emerged as the clear successor. One of his initial decisions as king was to dispatch William Marshal to England with instructions to free Eleanor from her confinement. Upon his arrival, he discovered she had already been released. Eleanor then journeyed to Westminster, where she accepted the loyalty oaths from numerous lords and clergy on Richard's behalf. She governed England in Richard's stead, signing her letters as Eleanor, by God's grace, Queen of England. Richard returned to England from Barfleur on August 13, 1189, to a warm reception. From 1190 to 1194, Richard was away, first on the Third Crusade and then detained by Emperor Henry VI of the Holy Roman Empire. In his absence, England was governed by a regency council and a series of chief justiciars. Although Eleanor didn't hold a formal title during this period, she wielded significant influence, especially over Prince John. She played a pivotal role in arranging Richard's release from captivity. Her deep anguish over Richard's imprisonment is evident in her letters to Pope Celestine III. Outliving Richard, Eleanor continued to be active during the reign of her youngest son, King John. In 1199, a truce between King Philip II and John proposed a marriage between Philip's heir, Louis, and one of John's nieces, the daughters of Eleanor of England, Queen of Castile. John tasked Eleanor, now 77, with choosing the bride. On her journey, she was briefly captured by Hugh IX of Lusignan but negotiated her release. She then traveled to Castile, where she chose her granddaughter Blanche for the marriage. However, a tragedy struck when the warrior Mercadier, meant to escort them, was killed. An exhausted Eleanor then retreated to Fontevraud. In 1201, as tensions escalated between John and Philip, Eleanor supported her son John. She left Fontevraud for Poitiers to thwart her grandson, Arthur I of Brittany, from seizing power. However, Arthur laid siege to her at Medieval Castle. John intervened, capturing Arthur and possibly his sister, Eleanor. After this, Eleanor returned to Fontevraud and became a nun. Eleanor passed away in 1204 and was laid to rest in Fontevraud Abbey beside her husband Henry and son Richard. Her tomb, adorned with intricate jewelry representations, is among the finest of its kind from that era. Tragically, during the French Revolution, the abbey was ransacked, and the remains of Eleanor, Henry, Richard, and others were desecrated and lost. At her death, only two of her children remained, King John of England and Queen Eleanor of Castile. Thank you for watching this episode of History Uncovered. We hope Eleanor's captivating journey through history has enlightened and intrigued you. If you found this video informative and engaging, please like and subscribe to our channel for more fascinating stories from the past. Your support helps us bring more tales from history to light. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications so that you never miss a new video. As we wrap up, the algorithm suggests another intriguing episode for you. Displayed on the screen now is a video we believe you'll thoroughly enjoy. Check it out, and continue your journey through history with us.